of the amino acid tyrosine. We all have the same skin color. In fact, the peppered moth in England has that same thing. Dark color in Holstein cattle is that same chemical. So it's just a simple protein called melanin. You can have a little bit of it and your skin will look light. You can have a lot of it and your skin will look dark. And so it's the same color, just different amounts of one color. And so when you take a look at this whole range up there, what are those letters underneath? Well, the letters underneath represent the genes that those people have. Now, you have to have the gene for making melanin in the first place. And some people are born with a defect in the gene for making this protein, the skin color protein, called melanin. If you don't have that gene, then the person will be born, or an animal will be born, or a plant will be born, albino. They don't have any ability to make this color at all. And people who are albinos, or animals that are albinos, are really, really white, in color, and their eyes are pink, not because there's a color pink in it, because the light goes in and comes out, and as it goes through the blood vessels, it reflects the kind of color of the blood, gives it a pinkish tinge. And the bad news for people that are albinos, I have 2 friends that are albinos, is there's no melanin at the back of the eye to absorb extra light. So the light bounces around, and albinos are always legally blind. Although the 2 people I know both have jobs that require a lot of paperwork, and they can, with magnifying glasses, etc., take care of that. And so if you have any melanin at all, these genes up here, the big and little A's and big and little B's, tell you how much of it you'll manufacture in your skin cells. And so if you have big A, big B on the left, you'll make the most amount of melanin and have the darkest skin, just the most of this one color. If you have all little letter genes, then you'll make the least melanin. Now, you won't be albino, but you'll make the least amount of melanin and have very light skin. Or you can, be somewhere in between. And so all of us have the same skin color, just different amounts of it. Well, when I first became a Christian, evolutionists would say to me, "You believe God created just 2 people, Adam and Eve?" I said, "Yes." They say, "Oh, okay, where did all the skin colors come from?" And actually, to start with, because I was trained in evolution, do you know I didn't even know this? I mean, this has been known for a century, but it was left out of my training because it's very anti-evolutionary. The early evolutionists in the early part of the 20th century, boy, oh boy, were they into making big differences between skin colors. They wanted to make people with different skin colors different species. And it wasn't even a different gene, just different amounts of the same chemical. No big difference at all. By the way, who knew that already? I wasn't getting it in science because I was getting cheated on my science education. But I would have known that had I been at Mars Hill, in Athens when Paul was preaching. I could have looked it up in the Bible. And so Paul is preaching in this very cosmopolitan city. People of different amounts of melanin, different shades of skin color from all over the world were living there, different cultures, different backgrounds. And so he's going in and preaching to all of them about the love of Jesus Christ. And he talks about how God made up what? One blood, all the tribes and tongues and nations of people for to dwell on the earth. Notice tribes, tongues, nations. There are different tribes, there are different languages, there are different national boundaries. What's the word that's missing? Races. There aren't any different races. There's only one race, the human race. We're all parts of it. And so some of your parents, some of the older folks here, in 2000 they sent out the big census form, every year. And so here I'm filling out the census form. And I knew this was coming up, so they have a question there, what race are you? And of course that's actually anti-scientific to even put that word in there, but they had it in there and I'm looking down there. Of course, I saw Cherokee and I thought, I could put that in. Maybe I could get some government grant. I could live on a reservation if I really wanted to. Okay? Yes, I thought about checking Cherokee, but then I was looking for something. So I kept going down, and sure enough, I found what I was looking for. Other, okay? So it said other colon blank. And so it said, what race are you? And I put down there, human. There's only one race, the human race. We're all parts of it, Acts 17:26. Now, I'm not sure what the Census Bureau did with that, but they got that little bit of information. Notice the Bible had it right all along. And it wasn't really until the latter half of the 20th century that scientists figured out, hey, wait a minute. We've all got the same skin color, just different amounts of it. We're all part of the same species. And it's funny that that's such a recent discovery in science, and yet a foundational statement in the Bible right from the word go. Well, next slide. Well, some people would say, even after I explain that, well, there's just one skin color, they take a little while to explain that. And some of them would say, well, how long would it take if you started with two people to get all the different amounts of that same skin color we have? That would take millions of years, or at least thousands of years, or hundreds, or what? How long would it take to get all the variations in the amount of that one skin color?